Welcome back. Hope things are going well. I have another exciting book that I think that everybody should own or at least read in depth because it gives you a lot of interesting aspects to who we are as a species and teaches you a lot about the brain and how we become through the world and stuff like that. Interesting. We're going to get to that. So hope things are good. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and do this. So you ever thought about taking a bag of marshmallows? You know, marshmallows sometimes are the little teeny ones or the big marshmallows, and you're kind of like playing a game, and you take one marshmallow and you put it on a table. Let's say in your dining room, and you put that one little marshmallow on your dining room, and then you say to your kid, or you say to yourself, or you say to whoever's in the room. Maybe there's two people. And you say, you know what? I will be right back. Give me about 15 minutes. And when you get back, I will give you two marshmallows. And so it's that temptation of saying, okay, to that person that I want you to wait at that table. And I will be right back. And if that marshmallow is gone, I'm not going to give you any other marshmallow. But if that marshmallow is there, when I get back, I will give you two. So this kind of comes back onto what we call self-discipline. And this book right here is called The Marshmallow Test. And it's by Why Self-Control is the Engine of Success. And it's by Walter Mischel. I think that's how you would say that. And this book is a 2014 book. It's very lengthy. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about that's really important. There's this fantastic book. I think there's a good thing for this one to buy. And there's a lot of research into it in the back of the book. There's a lot of research studies that go into this that he talks about. That's just the evidence. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. So what I was talking about, that marshmallow test, is in the 1960s, so 1968 to 1974. Okay, so give you like a range there. More than 550 preschool children this was done at Stanford University. And this is a well-known experiment in the field of psychology that examines children's or preschoolers' the ability to delay gratification. Now, if you don't know what delay gratification is, it's like you're waiting for some reward, and it takes time. And sometimes it takes longer than a year or two. It could take as long as 5-10 minutes. But you're trying to delay that gratification of getting that reward. And so you're trying to put stuff in your way so you can still look at the reward, but you're delaying yourself from trying to just jump over the fence and get in it. So a lot of stuff come onto that. And so in this study, children were given a choice between one small reward, which is like a marshmallow in this case, or a similar treat. You can do a cookie if you want, that they could eat immediately, or a larger reward, like two marshmallows, if they wait for until the researcher gets back. Usually this takes up to about 20 minutes. This was the range. You can look this study up. It's really interesting. When I did my psychology background, this is one of the studies that I had to research, and I found out this to be interesting. I never thought about this, and it really does give you some insight to what we are as people. But it was done with preschoolers at a Stanford University being nursery school. And so the results, though, were that out of these 550 preschoolers, some of them were willing to delay gratification. They were willing to wait and get two, and a lot of them wouldn't. And there's a lot of factors into that too, and we're going to talk about that. And one of the factors was socioeconomic status, which, socioeconomic status is that, it means that you're kind of the poverty line. You don't really have that, kind of like the money. Well, the income. Your parents would have the income to support you, to give what you want and stuff like that. And so that was kind of like the one of the factors in there. And a lot of it, some of it was how your parents talked to you through them child raising and stuff like that. And there's a lot of other factors that we're going to talk about. Don't worry. But a lot of it has to do with self-control. So this book is really just say, hey, why self-control is the engine of success. Remember, success is different for a lot of people. Success might mean that, hey, I'm going to take out the garbage tonight. That's a small success. I'm going to go ask that girl or ask that boy out because, that's my success. Or maybe I'm going to go on and complete my driver's training. That's a big success. And just sometimes they're literally small or they can be very big. It depends on what you're doing, right? It means anything. It means you have some completeness or that you did it. But anyway, they do talk about he does talk about the marshmallow test at the beginning, but what he does, it relates throughout the book to other things that kind of grow onto that. So let's go ahead and talk to that. And one of the things is that Walter did, he's kind of said this that was really interesting. Is self-control pre-wired? So when you're born, is self-control already there? And he talks about nurture and DNA. Remember, nurture is kind of how you're grown up, how you're raised. Nature is the environment, right? So is it in our DNA? And remember, self-control is kind of you're putting yourself in a state that you can monitor yourself in your actions. That's kind of what self-control is. There's probably a little bit more detail than that. But here we go. You kind of see a stimulus. So in psychology, they call it a stimulus. A stimulus is something that you have going on right now. So for example, the stimulus right now is my words coming out. The response is what the reaction you get when you hear my words. So if I had a bell and I'm ringing the bell, the stimulus is I'm ringing the bell. The response is I have a dog condition or salivating because I know if I ring this bell, the response is I'm going to get a treat. It's called Pavlov's dogs. It was a Russian psychologist, if you want to look that up. But yes, if you ring a bell, you have salivate. It's about condition and response. You can look that up if you want. Really awesome study. It was about the early 1900s. Anyway, off topic. But you have control your behavior. Your behavior has to have some kind of response to the stimulus that you're acting on. And we all have this impulse. So my impulse is that, if I drive down the road, I need to get in that next lane. My impulse is to just go ahead and do it. Or if I know I'm at a line at Disneyland and I see, they just opened up the single rider line or something like that. Maybe my impulse is to jump in that line without thinking. Or jump in the river without thinking. Your impulse just says, just do it. I'm not going to think about it. And that has to deal with like your limbic system. So in your brain, on top of your spinal cord, so your spinal cord goes all the way up here. On top of that, it's your brainstem. Your brainstem has a limbic system, which is controlled of your temptations, and that's a lot of your biological impulses. So like your unconsciousness and stuff like that. Your heart rate and all that good stuff. There's a lot more psychology into that I have time to discuss with you. But it's interesting as we have these impulses. Sometimes we can't control them, and that comes with what Sigmund Freud called our id, our ego, and our superego. And our id is kind of like, hey, you know what? I don't care what's going on or who I am. I'm going to do it. Your ego is like your control center, like your balancing beam. You know what? That's probably not a good idea. And then your superego is the kind of the morals. Oh, that's a bad idea if I do that. So anyway, get off topic from that, is that, what is the roots of self-control though? What is the roots of monitoring yourself and your actions? And so this was done these were 18-month-year-olds. So 18-month-years-old. So you have these, not really a toddler yet, but this was before, so you have 18 months. These 18-month babies. And this was called Bernard's Toddler Center. And it was called the Strange Situation. Strange Situation, not stranger. Well, I think it could be stranger, sure. I might get that wrong. But strange situation. And so I knew who this is, Mary Answorth. And she's a social child psychologist. I think what she would kind of be known as. She's Mary Answorth. And it's kind of related before the Marshmallow Test is that they were, I think I have it bookmarked in here. Yes, I do. Thank you. So Mary Answorth designed the strange situation in a way to observe the relationships. So let's talk about this real quick. So she put, in the 1930s, this was done when an 18-month-year-olds, were waiting in a room for their mothers to return after they have walked out of the room. And researchers have played, did the toddler scream or did they just kind of observe and then they kind of went to go play with something else and then somebody else came in the room? Not the parent, somebody else, a stranger. Did that 18-month-year-old respond to that in a crying fashion? And it turns out that some of them didn't and some of them did, obviously, right? And this is very interesting. You might want to look this up. It's called A Strange Situation. It's in the 1930s by Mary Answorth. And it's kind of related to the Marshmallow Test in a way, about self-control or delayed gratification. And, it really depends on how you're raised in a way, right? So it's about trust. So if you're 18-month-year-olds, and your mother walked away and a stranger picked him up, would the baby cry? Or 18, I guess it's toddlers, would it cry? Or would it not? And so it's kind of how you're interacting in your environment and how you kind of how the mother raised the kid. And it's a lot of interaction between the biological and the environmental influences. And that's kind of like the basic of this. You might want to look that up. It's kind of cool. But it's kind of, we become one with our environment. So if our environment is very bad, we're going to take that mindset, believe it or not. And this was actually done with, I forgot what the thing is called. You can look it up later if you want. It's called, they did this with identical twins. So identical twins share the same DNA, right? But one of them was placed in a different environment for I forgot how many years. It might have been 18 years. Don't quote me on that. But you can look it up. But 18 years. So one was in a different environment, the identical twins, and at 18, let's just say, they were a little bit different. They looked alike, 100%. However, their brain chemistry was a little bit different because of the environment they were in. And there's a lot of controversy about this. So you can look this up. But, we become with one our environment. And it's all about how we think of ourselves sometimes. And this is called the theory of mind. By the way, this is called the theory of mind. Is how your thinking controls who you are. Your thinking is how you're managing yourself. And this is kind of like on the verge of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. I think I talked about this in other videos, if you saw that. But a growth mindset is what, hey, I can adapt to things. I can evolve. Fixed mindset says, I have these basic intelligence, basic skills. I'm not going to grow. I want to stay the same. And so it's really how you are strategizing your life around that kind of stuff. So in the book, he was talking about something with if you're a pessimist versus an optimist. And the difference is, if you don't know what these two are, it's Martin Singelman at the University of Pennsylvania asked 25-year-olds, college graduates, if they kind of knew what both of these are, and give him examples of what pessimism and optimism are. And what they kind of found is that, optimistic kids, if you're thinking if you're optimistic, or an optimist, you're thinking that, hey, I failed, but I'm going to do better the next time. Or I know what I'm going to do. I trust myself. I'm going to do better. But a pessimist or pessimistic says, you know what? I've experienced this. I know I'm going to fail next time. And so they kind of have doubts. And there's nothing I can do. And so it's really interesting as that the study came up. You might want to research this study too. There's so much here that I can talk about. And it's really about the coping mechanisms that are involved with incidents that make you kind of the pessimist and optimism. I do believe. I think that's what Walter was talking about in the book, is that of the study, is that it really depends on how you cope with life, and coping means you have strategies to deal with stress. So, for example, maybe to deal with stress is that if you got shot down or something like that, you would cope with that stress. That I know I'm okay. You would relax and breathe. Or you would, go work out or something like that. Sometimes that relieves a lot of stress. That's a coping mechanism, by the way. So your body changes, and your brain does. Your body and your brain change as we age. We all get older. Gravity has that effect on us, and our brain does change too. Maturity happens, and our self-perception of ourselves changes a little bit. Depends on your experiences too. Remember, your experiences shape who you are. And it's that connection between our self-perception and our identity and the present of ourselves, of who we are. So sometimes our identity is that, I'm here. My self-perception is that, in 5 years, if I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to be okay. And sometimes that can be mainstream. So you can think about your current situation versus your future situation. And a lot of it has to do with your tolerance as a person too. And tolerance is how much you can take, good or bad. So when we feel rejected, our neural activities in our brain and our sensitivity increases in our dorsal anterior circular cortex. A lot of it's just brain chemistry now. If you don't know anything about the brain, you might want to research it up. It's for fantastic stuff. There's all parts of the brain about your frontal lobe, your occipital lobe, your parental lobe. You have these, I don't want to call them, I guess they're your defense mechanisms. You kind of have these defense mechanisms, so they kind of protect yourself, right? So you get your heart rate and your blood pressure going. And you're breathing, you're trying to come over your attack, I guess you can say. And so you have these emotions, and they're automatic. And sometimes people have panic attacks or anxiety attacks because they don't know how to manage that stress, that outcome. And a lot of it comes with practice. You got to practice how to do this. Practice breathing, practice maintaining this. It's easier said than done. And a lot of it's if you have this additional stress on yourself. So if you have a lot of stress, stress is what define a stress is. A stress is something that you are finding uncomfortable. So some people stress public speaking. Public speaking is one of the biggest concerns. And so your heart races and your automatic neural systems kind of go off track because you're scared. You have a stress. And what happens when you're stressed so much over time, you get kind of, your immune system gets kind of damaged. And so what happens, this is why there's a difference between chronic stress versus acute stress. And chronic stress is something that you're having all the time, and it's doing something to your body. You can make yourself sick. You can. It's really easy. If you tell yourself, I'm always sick, you're going to become sick. It's a mind over matter in a way. So a lot of this has to do with your confidence. Confidence is a good thing. I can do this. I can do that. I can do that. But sometimes confidence can be a delusion. You can overthink too. You can be overconfident. And then if you fail, can you cope with that? So it really, self-control depends on your internalness to handle the problem. And a lot of it has to do with your ego too, in your control, yourself and your thoughts, and also your rational thinking. Are you rationalizing? And when you're angry, you can't rationalize. You're filled with you're filled with anger, you're filled with negative emotions. Sometimes you can't think about the situation, but you got to calm down and make yourself a little bit more comfortable. And then it takes a lot of practice until it becomes automatic, and you have to think. So when people anticipate that they will not be able to control themselves, they often try to make pre-comments to reduce their temptation. So here's what they do. So if I want to stop smoking, maybe I'm a heavy smoker and I want to stop smoking. What people do sometimes is that they would get rid of everything that's related to smoking in their house. Or if they want to stop drinking, get rid of all that. Junk food, they get rid of all the junk food. Whatever. However, the thing is there's a consequence to that. You can get rid of that, but that's great. But you're not telling yourself, I can't do that. Because it's out of sight, out of mind, but you have the outside world too. And you have TV, you got things that are showing you marketing. They're always coming up with ads like that. And so that kind of triggers sometimes your mode. It says, what, I really want to eat. I really want to eat that fast food. I really want to drink, smoke. I really want to have all that candy. And really it takes a lot of training to control yourself. And it says this goes back to the Marshmallow Test, is how we are disciplining, how we are self-controlling ourselves as we grow to adulthood to control ourselves of that reward. My reward is that I want to get off junk food. Okay, what are you doing to gradually increase those steps so you can have a little bit of control? And so it's interesting is that I have something to read for you. And this is called the radish experiment. Radish is RADISH experiment. Let me read this to you real quick. The students arrived hungry because they had not been told, they'd been told to fast before coming. Okay. Once in the lab, they were asked to force themselves to forego a temptation of chocolate chip cookies and candy and eat some radishes instead. Okay. Hope you kind of see that one point is. Right after they were asked to do a geometry question that was actually impossible to solve. That's cruelty, man. The studies showed that that people quit when they ate. So you can look this up for whatever it is, called the radish experiment. And they were kind of, if when people are hungry, they're more relaxed. When people are not, when people when people are full, they're kind of more relaxed, right? But when people are hungry, it's like survival. I need to eat. I need to eat. And a lot of it's that self-control of yourself. So going back to that food, that if you're getting rid of all that food, the temptation is I'm hungry and I really want that junk food, but I got rid of all that junk food. Well, what is stopping you to going out and buying it or going to get it? And so it takes a lot of self-control. And that's kind of what, the premise of this marshmallow is when you're younger. And you can control that. They found out for a little bit, in the Marshmallow Test that when toddlers were willing to wait for the next marshmallow to come, they actually had a lot more control in their lives. That's what the results showed from this. And they were to form positive relationships. They were to delay gratification easier. They were allowed to save money, a lot more money later. And because they, at an early age, they did this experiment and they did a long longevity test. They kind of see the results at a very long. They were followed for many years and checked up on. That's kind of what I mean. And so they were doing really well. And it's interesting to kind of see that because, how we are raised is what we become. And there's a lot of factors into that. So it's really what can parents do? So maybe you're a parent or maybe you are going to be a parent or, whoever you are, or maybe you're thinking about this. stress is a damaging thing. And they say, when a mother's pregnant, they say don't have stress weigh you down so much. When the baby's born, and in the first year of the childbirth and stuff like that, after the childbirth, you don't want to add any more stress into the environment, because you're damaging their defense mechanisms, their immune system. And it's really just, you have to think who you are. So it really depends on how you're raised. And if you're raised in a good environment, bad environment, whatever, there's a lot of hurdles to climb over, but delaying gratification really helps organize your life to be more in control of who you are. And I think this is a fantastic book that everybody should read, that everybody should analyze a little bit. Maybe watch this online. I think it's on a YouTube channel. You can watch the Marshmallow Test and look it up. It's very interesting because it really tells you, who we are is if we can delay reward. And a lot of adults can't delay reward very easy. If you've been around, you can probably see that when you go out to eating, relationships, maybe at the grocery store. It's interesting. You can see people if they can't delay gratification very much. It's like when I was at Costco. At Costco they have a little testers, right? The food testers, and if somebody's there, they're cooking it, and sometimes there'd be a line. Or maybe they're putting them out and there's a line. Some people have the impulse to just go in front and grab one and leave. It's really funny how you get to observe that situation. It's just they can't delay or have manners. And a lot of it's maturity too. And a lot of it comes with how you're raised. I mean, it's monkey see, monkey do. If my mother and father are going to do that, I'm going to do that. Because that's how human nature is. So pick up this book. It's really good. It was not that much. I think it was like $18, which could be on sale too. It's a 2014, but there's a lot of good information in there, and there's so much that I can talk about, and we can go on forever, which is probably a good thing. I don't know, for me, because I love doing this stuff. So get the book. It's called The Marshmallow Test, and talks about a lot of information. And I hope that you enjoyed this segment. I did. A lot of psychology into that. It's crazy. I learned a lot. So hopefully everything's good, and I will see you in the next one.